Hello, you are listening to On the Topic podcast, and this week you'll be getting a silver bullet to your chest from me. I'm Dan.
And I'm shoving surfboards up some asses. I'm Alex. And we'll talk a little bit about what I actually mean by that. Not literally doing, guys, in just a little bit. But before we get into this week's episode of Cobra Kai Season 5, Dan, what have you been up to?
It's been a bit quiet actually since we last recorded an episode. I haven't really actually done much. I just feel like I'm sort of floating through life. I haven't really started watching anything. Usually October there's new stuff coming to TV and stuff, but yeah, not a great deal. Still enjoying She-Hulk.
Yes.
There's a few things I feel quite passionate about that series, and we'll no doubt talk about that in our season review. It probably won't be till November now, because we'll be doing our Halloween episode, which is going to be very spooky. So I've been doing notes for that. But two talking points, actually.
Tell me.
So firstly, Marvel has rescheduled some of its films.
Yes.
And we were talking about this last night. So Blade has now been moved to the 6th of September 2024. The untitled Deadpool movie, which we now know has got Hugh Jackman in it, has been moved to the 8th of November 2024. And then Fantastic Four is now on the 14th of February 2025. And Avengers Secret Wars is now on the 1st of May 2026. So quite a big gap now between the two Avengers films, but I've got a theory.
Yeah, what are they going to shove in that time? What are they not telling us? Because that is a lot of money that they're not going to be making on the face of it. So what's your theory?
I mean, apart from Blade, which we'll talk about in a second, I think things have been shimmied around to shoehorn in maybe some more Disney Plus series.
Yeah.
Maybe another Spider-Man film. We don't quite know what's going on with Sony and Marvel Studios yet, but there's obviously an opening for another Spidey film with Tom Holland. But could we see the X-Men introduced, do you think? Because, I mean, in between all this time, we'll no doubt have more San Diego Comic-Cons, more D23s, and I just think there's going to be more announcements.
Yeah. Well, you still got Moon Knight. Oscar Isaac has said pretty much that I think they've said recently there's going to be a season 2, so you've got to squeeze that in there at some point. And there's some disappointment by some of the actors in the Eternals franchise, and they've kind of hinted that there's going to be an Eternals follow-up, but they haven't currently committed to it publicly. I think there's some disappointment from some of the actors say, well, actually, hang on a minute, is this happening or isn't it? I don't know what their contracts are like. They don't really share those anymore, do they? Unlike, back from phase 1 to 3, where, these actors were signing up to 6, 7, 8 appearance deals, weren't they? And you could almost tell that they were either going to be, in some parts, going to be part of films or having a solo outing. For these many films now, we just don't know. They haven't told us. All they're doing on a film-by-film basis because they know that they can command all the actors. So, it's a good one. I think you're probably right. I think Disney Plus is a way to tell a story. I don't know how popular it is, but it's got to be quite popular, right? And it brings in the money. So, yeah, maybe they're clearing the slates to give Blade that time, but also to have some series 2s and 3s, perhaps.
Yeah, the other interesting thing was in recent weeks that Armor Wars is no longer going to be a Disney Plus series. They're moving it to a cinematic release, which is interesting. Do you think they didn't have the material for, say, 6, 8 episodes? Or
this is the thing. So it really depends, and I know this is a bit of a cop-out, but I mean this in a nicer sense because, I've talked about it enough now in terms of the Ultimate Iron Man Armor Wars comic book series. So don't worry, listener. Don't worry, Dan, I won't talk about it again. But I don't know whether there's enough to do a 6, 7, 8 part series. because a lot of people are reflecting on the recent news and saying that perhaps a lot of the series have some filler. And I think most of the series you can pinpoint one or two episodes where you go, did that really need to be an episode?
Hmm.
And when I say that, I look at Loki, when he's on the train on that Doom Planet episode, I think whilst that was good to flesh out some of the relationship, I don't think it was needed. And I think then if I look at Hawkeye, a lot of that was filler. That could have been probably a film. I would have watched the film. It probably would have been of the ilk of Black Widow. It's not going to be a particularly great film, but I think it'd been a better film than a series. There was lots and lots of filler in there. Lots of going back to the apartment, lots of cliffhanger type stuff where it really didn't really amount to much. So I think they've done the right thing with Don Cheadle. Because not everything needs to be a series.
Hmm. And
So
it's nice
yeah,
for Don Cheadle to finally get his big screen moment.
yeah, 100%. He's almost been second fiddle since Iron Man. Um, that's my words, by the way, not anyone else's. I haven't read that anywhere. Just I kind of feel like he's taken. Was it Cuba Gooding Jr. wasn't it? Who was
Yeah.
the original Brody? Who I thought did a good job, by the way, but obviously he couldn't play ball with the Marvel executives. I just feel like he's had a bit of a bum deal. Like he's had really good, strong appearances here and there, but he hasn't really done much on his own. Okay, yeah, he was in Iron Man 2, but I don't really see him carrying the character as much as Cuba did in the first one. That
Hmm.
might be a unpopular opinion, but I think it's personally it's fact. So yeah, I agree. It'd be nice for him to have something and to call his own. And I think if they do it right, then we're going to have Justin Hammer back. And that was he was one of the better aspects of Iron Man 2. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he's fared in the blip, what he's done, and it's all the theory. I don't know if it's confirmed, but the theory is that it's about Tony's legacy. I mean,
Hmm.
Christ, all of season 4 is about Tony's legacy, but apparently it's all about his armor's out there, his technology's out there, and it's down to Rhodey to be able to to rope it all up and to keep tabs on things. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Hammer plays a part in this.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait to see him come back. To be honest,
Should be great.
I
Should be
must
great.
good villain in my opinion. I know whatever people think of Iron Man 2, Justin Hammer is actually one of the highlights.
I thought it was great. Really good comedic effect. Um, and he's got to feel sore and bruised following the events of Iron Man 2 and being locked up after his failed attempt at taking control of the expo.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it'd be good. And I'm kind of glad that if they get the script right and they get the storyline right, actually you can tell a really interesting story without the filler. I don't need half an hour, 45 minutes of lackluster, longing shots and meaningless script. I think let's have something that really moves the dial for the character.
Mm.
And I think a film's probably the better way of doing it. So yeah, I'm all for it, to be honest, Dan.
And the second talking point is that Tom DeLonge has finally returned to Blink 182 for a third time.
Hmm.
Now, interestingly, Mark Hoppus said this. Mark Hoppus has obviously recently overcome his battle with cancer, which is
Mm.
brilliant news. And of
Yes.
course, that has now brought the three amigos back together. Tom is a best friend, confidant, and soulmate. He and I spent the whole day yesterday laughing. We all did. Blink is in a really good place. That said, he has to get kicked out of the band every few years. I mean, very tongue in cheek, but maybe I'm old, maybe I'm cynical, and obviously I'm delighted that Tom's returned. But I just don't know if he's got the attention span to stick to one thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He writes books. He's got Angels and Airwaves. He's got the UFO stuff. But we'll see. I might be proved wrong, but at the time of recording, when this episode drops on, which will be a Friday, Blink will have a new song out as well called Edging.
Yeah. Okay. Quick
So
stuff.
one to keep an eye out on. They did briefly tease it in their trailer where they announced Tom's return. It's quite funny, and it's very Blink 182. big dick joke, about
Mm.
them coming. I don't know if you've seen it, Alex, but
I haven't,
it's
no, but
quite funny.
mm.
But yeah, no, that's my two talking points. But obviously, otherwise, my life's been sort of reasonably quiet. What about you, Alex? What have you been up to?
Yeah, quiet here too. The only things I can really talk about, Dan, is how I'm struggling, but near the end of Titan season 3. Um, I have continued to watch it despite the fact I don't know if I'm really enjoying it, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
But I'm on the final episode now, and I'll see it through to the end because I've had 12 episodes of getting to grips. They had some interesting parts to it, but ultimately it's not as enjoyable, I guess, as season 1 and a bit of season 2.
What happens in season 3? I actually can't recall if I've watched it or not.
So this is introducing a lot of Dick's background and history with Wonder Girl and the rest of the group. It's quite interesting. Dove and Hawk come back after they disbanded, and they get attacked in is it Chicago where they're based in, and the rest of it. It's okay. It's not great.
I think I have seen it. It was probably a while ago.
Yeah,
But if I don't really remember it, it probably wasn't
it's quite
that
telling.
good.
Yeah,
Mm.
but the season in this season they're back in Gotham, and it's under siege, and it's all about the Riddler. So they're laying heavily on the Batman backstory, and Batman's not there, and he's dead, not dead. No one really knows, and it's okay. That's all I can say. It's okay, but I'll see it to the end. I started watching. This is a little bit left field, but I like to introduce those things from time to time. Dan, The Mole on Netflix.
Hmm.
Now, I've never seen this before, so I think this is a series 2 or 3, perhaps. But the whole premise is a game show, and I say allegedly because you're only watching what you're being provided with. So all these people could actually be actors, but we are told all of these people are members of the public. And one individual is the mole. Okay. So far, so good, right? So you've got about 10 people, give or take. One of them, their sole objective throughout a couple of weeks, every day they've got a challenge to complete. And then every day during these challenges, someone is disrupting the challenge either by throwing people off course or not doing their best or causing mistakes. And each challenge equates to a prize money. So if they do win a challenge, they get 10 grand, 20 grand added to the pot. And it's all about these people trying to work out who is the mole by things that go wrong.
Interesting.
It's all about psychology, observation, and I guess for the viewer, do we know who the mole is? So they're all kind of looking at each other, going, "Oh, is that odd?" And "Oh, did they really mean to do that? Was that really a mistake? Are they really inept?" And I'm looking at going, "Well, actually, is what I'm being presented the truth?" And is the way which they're editing trying to get me to sway in favor of certain people that, so it's always a constant guessing game. I quite like that. That's quite interesting. So they're doing different challenges and different tasks. And this year or this season, they're in Australia. So they had a bank heist, and one of them they had to go in the outback jungle. And it's really quite good. So if you like a bit of game showy type intrigue, whodunit, this offers a couple of those different things, and I'm quite enjoying it. It's a weekly thing. I think they're on episode 5 now, released every Friday in the UK, at least anyway. And I'm quite enjoying it. So it's called The Mole. So yeah, other than that, just getting through TV shows down. As you say, it's an interesting year, this one, because October tends to be the restart of the season finales or the season finales of programs, but we haven't even had that this year. Things have tend to dried up over the summer, and we're kind of left with this void before Christmas. So I don't know whether we're feeling the tail end of COVID, or whether
Mm,
things aren't like that anymore because you've got on-demand TV shows which have taken over since COVID, and you don't really have that writer's interruption. I don't know. It's an interesting one to see. There's not that many films out anymore. All the summer blockbusters have been done. There's
yeah.
nothing really to be looking forward to. So I don't even know, Dan. Well, we're going to have a most anticipated, but I don't even think we've got anything really for the next couple of months this side of Christmas really to look forward to.
No, just Wakanda Forever. And of course,
Yeah,
we'll probably we'll go see that, do it on the go, and then we'll do a big review the following week. But
yeah.
there's just not a great deal, like you say. I genuinely hope there is a most anticipated 2023 because, I mean, there's always something for us to look forward to.
Yeah.
It's just a case of what and when. Yeah,
Mm,
but we'll see. I mean,
sure.
that'll be New Year anyway for that episode.
Indeed.
One of my favourite annual episodes, believe it or not. Let's kick in. Let's kickstart our Cobra Kai season 5 review.
Yeah.
So we'll probably do it slightly different to sort of previous episodes, where we'll talk about each episode, but we'll talk about our favourite and least favourite moments in each episode.
Sounds good.
And then we'll do a little bit of character development. And then finally, I've got some stuff about what's possibly next. Is there going to be a season 6? But anyway, so let's start off with episode 1, Alex. Long,
Mm.
long way from home. So Terry Silver, he's actually started his expansion of the Cobra Kai franchise, and he's opened up his franchise dojo in Encino, which is in California, for you geography nuts, and begins acquiring local dojos across the San Fernando Valley. So he's taking them all over slowly, one by one. Johnny and Robbie are traveling to Mexico to search for Miguel, who is looking for his biological father, Hector Salazar. Already sounds like a drug baron, doesn't he?
Mm.
Robbie is initially displeased with the aim of their trip and wishes to return home, but he decides he's not going to, and ends up helping Johnny take a group of Australian scammers who are attempting to pickpocket them. And I think that's what you're referring to in the opening of this episode, Alex.
I was, and this is actually one of my favourite scenes, probably from the whole of the season.
Bold.
And where we see Johnny kicking the shit out of some scammers, because Miguel obviously falls foul to them at the very opening of the
He
episode,
does,
which
yeah.
is a bit of a bullying moment, which is a bit unfair, really. So it's quite nice to see some justice being made in Johnny's own kind of version, but it's also quite a nice father-son moment. I don't condone father-son moments being around violence and kicking the shit out of total strangers. Usually, traditionally, you see a father-son moment perhaps fishing or having making those core memories down, not necessarily kicking someone to the jaw, but nonetheless, it's quite a wholesome moment when Robbie decides to back up his dad and to perhaps start to show them coming together as a team. And I rather enjoyed it because that Aussie was a bit of a bastard.
Yeah, I would say, especially to Miguel at the start of the episode. Well, he does give a little bit of the money back, but still, you're a dick, mate, and you probably deserved it.
Oh, yes.
So Miguel, after saving Louis from the path of an oncoming vehicle, is invited back to Hector and his family's home as a reward. Now, as part of the deal with Cobra Kai, so this is elsewhere, Daniel decides to shut down Miyagi-Do karate. But while spying on Terry Silver with Daniel, Chosen recognizes Silver's moves and deduces that his sensei was Kim Sun Young, a martial artist whose teaching style was based on deception.
Go figure.
Daniel and Chosen concoct a plan to expose Terry Silver's maniacal nature to the valley, which involves Chosen posing as a local sensei, auditioning alongside other senseis that Silver is looking to hire. So that was episode 1. I mean, not a great deal to talk about that. I mean, usually I sort of find I'm hooked quite quickly with Cobra Kai, but that first episode just felt a bit like, A bit Miss Daisy, I suppose.
Yeah. The I I I don't get Miguel's story arc here.
Do you know what? I was thinking about this earlier. Um, and to be honest, I don't quite know what depth this gives Miguel as a character,
Uh-uh.
because usually you sort of see the repercussions of something like this afterwards, but we don't get it.
No, I mean he effectively did a runner, which we still don't really get later on in the season at all. There's no repercussions for him doing a runner when Sam has a competition in the previous season.
Mm.
Um, his father doesn't find out his true identity. Shocker and spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. Yeah, there's no kind of repercussion apart from 2 episodes where they're on a school trip down to Mexico. I don't get it. It's lots of oh, do I recognize you? Do I know you? Have we met before? Kind deal going on, but that's it.
Yeah.
Um, what's the point apart from they couldn't think of any other reason to have 3 characters perhaps in the valley? I don't know. Odd. Didn't like it. Didn't really make any sense and wasn't really didn't really, as you say, didn't really develop the character any further than what
No,
he was at the end of the previous season. You know what I mean?
because something like this would have some sort of repercussion in that character's life afterwards. You know, we'll
Yeah.
sort of talk about this more. I think it sort of goes up to about season. Shut up, Dan. Episode 3.
Yes.
It doesn't bring anything to the story.
No.
But
Mm-mm.
anyway, on to episode 2, which is, and I hope I pronounced this right, Mole.
Mole.
Mole. So this starts off with a flashback to 1972. So we see a young Chosen training under his uncle Sato, and it's quite a brutal scene. So they're all in a circle, and they're punching down on buckets of sand, if I recall.
It is, yeah.
And young Chosen has put I think he's put like a beanbag or something underneath it.
Yeah, it's a pillow.
Or a pillow, yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of take off the edge, and he gets bollocked by his uncle Sato. Gets the pillow removed, but he decides to put it back in. And again, it's just one of those scenes which I'm not sure brings anything to that character.
No.
We don't really sort of see anything after that. I mean, the only sort of cutscenes where we sort of go back in time that I feel like we get a bit of depth to a character, say, the Terry Silver or John Kreese, because it does sort of give them a bit of a background. But for this Chosen moment, yeah, I don't know, not a lot. So back in Mexico, Johnny and Robbie get their van towed after Johnny's really poor attempt at speaking Mexican or Spanish. That's it, they're buggered. And it forces them to participate in a spicy pepper challenge to get it back. Now, Robbie wins the competition by eating the spiciest pepper available, although he reveals he cheated and ate some candy. Sweets to us Brits, which Johnny had actually given to him earlier in the trip. Miguel discovers that Hector doesn't know he exists and confronts his mother, who warns him that he is a very dangerous man. And of course, we see later on he's got a gun, probably had a questionable past with drugs and all that sort. But anyway, he goes out with his biological father to an underground fight ring, which sounds like a great idea. Yeah, as you do. Where it is implied that Hector is a wanted man due to his shady history in Ecuador. So there we go. He's a bad egg. Miguel realizes his mum was right and flees before being found by Johnny and tearfully reuniting with him. So again, this is one of those moments that just doesn't bring anything to Miguel as a character.
No.
Because they end up legging it, don't they? Because if I recall, Hector's henchmen see Johnny and Robbie walking through with FBI t-shirts on.
They do, yeah.
I can't remember what was on the back of them. It wasn't
female body inspectors.
That was it. female body inspectors, which is really quite poor taste. But
it's on brand for Johnny, and I think this is probably for me the only really highlight of the episode.
Yeah,
not a lot goes on in this one, but again, Johnny stills the show by being brazen and just bulldozing his way into a situation without actually clearing anything up. And of course, if you're wearing 2 t-shirts that look like you're from the FBI, this guy thinks he's being raided. So there's a bit of misunderstanding and a bit of fighting. It's an MMA competition that's going on, isn't it, in this fight ring?
Yeah.
And Johnny ends up going up against the MMA fighter, which is interesting to see this fight scene going off between someone who's doing karate and someone who's doing MMA. And then you got the announcer talking the rest of the onlookers through this quite odd scene outside the ring. It's quite an interesting, quite funny, tongue-in-cheek scene because again, only Johnny can get himself into these situations, and sure enough, he does.
But gets bailed out by Robbie again, who throws in the hottest chili pepper that he was supposed to eat, and the poor MMA fighter gets it in his face.
Indeed.
And that's gonna sting, possibly for a little while. Back in the Valley, Silver introduces his new lineup of senseis to his students. Tori talks with Chosen, who's under a pseudonym, and Terry becomes acquainted with Chosen, inviting him over for dinner that day. Now, Terry Silver is confronted by Tori, who reveals she knows that Silver paid off the referee to ensure Cobra Kai's victory at the All Valley tournament.
Ooh.
Yes. Bit of a redemption arc for Tori in this season, I think. Silver discovers Chosen's true identity due to a toast, and the two shared during dinner, and has the other senseis attack him. But of course, Chosen, this old geezer, just defeats him quite easily and tells Silver to stay away from the LaRussos. Again, that was quite an interesting scene at the end. He just takes them all on, and that's it.
Yeah, which is an interesting issue to set up, because then if you fast forward 8 episodes, he's doing it again. So they had to find a way which Chosen couldn't be in the mix, because otherwise it'd just be an easy walkover again. And I think that from a writing perspective, that probably challenged them, because the big showdown, well, you don't need Daniel, you don't need Johnny, because Chosen can take them all on. So they had to try and get him out the picture to make it a meaningful, all-out fight scene. So, yeah, perhaps they played all their cards too early on that one, but it was an interesting battle all the same.
Episode 3, Playing with Fire. So Johnny returns from Mexico, where Carmen tells him that she thinks she might be pregnant.
Nope.
Uh-oh. Not wanting to fail the baby like he failed Robbie, Johnny gets advice off a YouTube tutorial on the internet on how to prepare. And he actually cleans up his dump of an apartment, and it looks clean. It's the first time it's looked clean since 2019, I think.
That's right.
From season 1. And then he later learns that, of course, Carmen is actually pregnant. Meanwhile, Miguel thinks Sam wants to break up with him. So Hawk and Dimitri give him various ways to win her over, in which he buys a necklace of an octopus, if I recall.
Yeah, because that's going to fix everything, won't it?
Yep, always. Jewellery, it fixes everything. Sam, Yasmin and Moon go on a spa day to help Sam figure out who she really is, during which she goes into one of those floating chamber things. I can't remember what they're called. On
that, Dan, would you ever do that?
I think I would.
Actually, sorry, 2 questions. You kind of just answered it. But would you do that? And have you ever been on a spa day?
I've been on a spa day.
Have you?
But I have not done one of those floaty things. So we went on a spa day in Southampton, the rivals, for my other half's 30th, I want to say. It was back in 2015. And because one of the masseuses wasn't there, they actually upgraded us. So we got afternoon tea as well for no extra cost. and it was
Good.
a really good day out. I'm not going to
Mm.
lie. Got to
Got
go and
pampered.
swim in, got pampered. I got a really good back massage, which was amazing. And I walked back to the train station with my other half, and we were feeling good.
Oh, okay.
And
I've
then
never done one. I'm quite intrigued by it though.
yeah, oh no, you should do it.
Yeah.
But I think we should do the floaty tank thing at some point, right?
Yeah. And that also intrigues me because I think my sister-in-law is gonna do one. She's done one. I really should pay more attention. She's mentioned it recently, guys and girls. And in this particular one, you can leave it open or you can leave it closed, as they do in this episode, bringing it back to what we're talking about. And it's filled with, I guess, salt water. It's quite high salt content, so you end up floating. Not an awful lot of water, maybe a couple of inches, but it's enough to be able to float on top. So you're partially submerged. Ideally, I think the idea is you don't wear anything, but you don't have to. It's just all about, getting into you're floating free and easy, all that kind of stuff. But it's supposed to allow you to meditate a lot easier because there's sensory deprivation. So there's not an awful lot of light or next to no light at all. You get that weightlessness feeling, and it's easy to switch off. I'm intrigued by it. Also a little bit scared, Dan, because I don't know what I would see or what I would meditate on. But it's interesting. If anyone, by the way, has done it, let us know because I'm really keen to find out what it's like. But yeah, it's intriguing, Dan.
Tell us what you see when you zone out, because Sam actually sees a darker version of herself. And it's quite a fascinating moment. It's almost like she sort of realizes that, some of the things she's done isn't quite as nice as we think she is.
Isn't true to herself.
Elsewhere, Daniel and Chosen spy on Silver's old friend Mike Barnes after deducing that Silver will call upon old friends for help. But they discover that he is a changed man and now owns a furniture store, but not without a few punch-ups first. So Mike apologizes to Daniel for how harshly he treated him during the 1985 All Valley tournament and gives him the number of Silver's former attorney. Upon discovering that Daniel used Barnes for help, Silver burns the furniture store down in retaliation, which is quite brutal. You've just killed a man's livelihood. Not a great deal of favourite or least favourite moments in that episode for me. I don't know about you, Alex.
So I think it was interesting to introduce Mike again. They're really flexing the full cast of the original films. Nice flashbacks, and they're purposely intertwined in this. I don't think it's gratuitous. I think I said it before, where you could just shoehorn a scene in from the film or the films. They don't. I think it's good. I don't know if Mike really brings anything other than, well, we've got Chosen. Who else can we call upon? And we can talk about another familiar face in a couple of episodes. I don't know. It doesn't really bring anything to it apart from another familiar face. And perhaps that's all you need.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't quite come to terms with whether it's a good or a bad thing. I think I'm indifferent. And again, I don't know whether that's actually a good thing in itself. But yeah, not an awful lot apart from some interesting flashbacks, which is, again, nostalgic, is great. But so what? I guess.
Yeah. Episode 4, Downward Spiral. This actually ends with probably one of my least favourite moments. But Johnny receives a visit from Shannon, who's Robbie's mum, who has come to pick up Robbie so he can spend the summer with her parents.
Just on that, Dan, is that the same actress as season 1? Because I don't think it is.
I don't think it was either.
I wonder whether she's been recast.
Potentially. We'll have to have a look at that.
Yeah.
Maybe have a quick Google before we end the episode.
I'll look whilst you're doing that. I'll use your interwebs.
Upon learning Carmen is pregnant, Shannon recommends Johnny gets a job as a rideshare driver. So it's almost like an Uber driver. His first day is absolute garbage. He gets multiple one-star reviews due to his questionable driving, his loud rock music, and of course, he's chugging beer. I mean, you wouldn't get away with that over here, I'm afraid. No drinking and driving, kids. You know, it's not good. You'll probably end up crashing, killing yourself, or potentially killing someone else. So don't do it. He contemplates quitting, but he gets inspired from a pawn shop owner. That's porn as in PAWN, you filthy animals.
Get your head out of the gutter, guys.
To continue working to provide for his new family. Later asking Shannon for a second chance with Robbie. Elsewhere, the teens get into a feud at the local water park, as you do. So Tori and Hawk have a race down a water slide to determine which dojo gets to stay. Because, of course, they all want to go on the cool slides. They don't want to be restricted to their half of the water park. But, of course, Tori wins. But the other teens discover that they cheated. Those bloody Cobra Kai students. They'd actually given Hawk a tube with a hole in it. They get into a fight and everyone's kicked out. So there's no winners here, folks. And to end this episode, Daniel and Amanda go to a charity auction, which they discover is being hosted by Terry Silver, of course. Now he starts to aggravate Daniel, causing him to embarrass Amanda in front of the attendees. Now, furious at Daniel for ruining her chance of getting a spot on the charity board and for refusing to let his rivalry with Silver go, Amanda leaves for her mother's house in Columbus, Ohio, and she takes the kids with her. That bugs me a little bit.
Tell me.
You're choosing not to believe your husband.
Yep. Who up until this point has had greater challenge and obstruction by Chris. So everything up until this point, what she's happy to accept, but someone who is seemingly got all the resources, available to him to upset the status quo, and as you say, she doesn't accept it. It is odd.
And those poor bonsai trees get trashed in the process, but yeah, for me that doesn't make a great deal of sense. I know tensions are sort of running high anyway between the two of them, and that maybe is the last straw. But the fact that she chose to believe Terry Silver over her own husband, being aggravated the entire night, I just don't buy it.
It's a bit odd.
But yeah, anyway.
So very quickly, Dan. Quickly. Sorry. Tinterwebs have confirmed that Diora Baird is actually Shannon Keane. So who we are seeing is the same actress as season 1, which, again, that then poses an issue because what's she been doing for a couple of seasons to kind of clean up her act? Because she's almost like there's the inference that she's an alcoholic or she hasn't quite got a grasp on looking after a child, and she doesn't look after her home, and she brings guys back, and to where we see her in this series, which albeit fleeting for about 2 minutes, she seems to be, back on an even keel and a responsible adult again. And not that I'm looking for a backstory, of course, to such a minor character, but that's probably why we didn't recognize her, because she looks entirely different. Surely they would have, I don't know, had a sentence in there that said, "Oh yeah, I was in rehab," or "I spent time away getting myself in order." We got none of that. I don't know. Just it's very odd just to suddenly say, "By the way, I've redeemed myself. I'm better. I'm a responsible adult." I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I watched season 1 back in 2021 because, of course, we did seasons 1 to 3 review originally, and I just remember her being a really shit mum. Like the house was shit. Yeah. She treated Robbie like shit. And all of a sudden, just seems to have like done this U-turn, and like she looks glamorous.
Yeah, let me take the boy that I don't want to my parents for the summer. Like, where did that come from?
It's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just very odd, and that then means that Robbie's now got a responsible parent. So then, why does he need Johnny? Because the whole point was I'm sorry, I know we're derailing going back here, but I think it's a really good point to raise. The whole point of why Robbie didn't like Johnny Wasn't because he couldn't act in seasons 1 to 3. He couldn't, by the way. And I still have some beef at certain points, but he has improved, by the way. I'm not that harsh.
And his
But the
hair.
whole and he's well, yeah, maybe it clearly worked out because he does look good. But anyway, the point is that his mum was useless. He didn't really have a home, and Johnny was useless and didn't really have a home there. And so he went off the rails and he went into juvie and he went and did all these things.
Mm,
But now he's got a responsible parent, which is mum, and Johnny's still Johnny, but he's better than he was in seasons 1 to 3. So where's his motivation to stay with Johnny? It's not as though
yeah.
he has no options. Apparently he's got grandparents. Ta-da! He's
Yeah.
now got a mother who's responsible. Ta-da! So why stick around in the valley apart from Tory? But we don't really get even that. I don't know. It's something's been lost there. Well, now we have all seemingly forgot it because it was quite a weak plot point, but I don't know. It's quite important identity, and
Hmm.
apparently he's got one now. So why is he staying behind? Don't know.
Yeah. Confusing stuff.
Hmm.
Episode 5, Extreme Measures. Now, Johnny tries numerous times to get Miguel and Robbie to befriend each other, but they refuse due to their past history together. And there's a fantastic moment, probably one of the funniest,
Yeah.
one of my favourite moments, is the escape room which Johnny creates.
This is actually, I think, one of my most favourite scenes of the whole season.
Yeah, definitely. It
Yeah.
is. It's up there. He throws the key down the goddamn compactor. That's it. They're locked in. Although
Yeah.
I think someone walks in, don't they? And they both walk out. And
Yeah.
he's like, "Don't shut the door." I'm locked in my own house. Yeah, it's brilliant. Anyway, instead, Johnny has the two of them fight it out. They say just duke out to get over their rivalry. With him getting the idea from Daniel, who is now drinking heavily after Amanda's departure. So, although Johnny, I'll talk about this a bit later, but although he's sort of cleaned himself up, he sort of goes back to old Johnny a little bit to, get this rivalry out of them.
Yeah. But I mean, fair play to him in this odd world that we inhabit in Cobra Kai works.
Mm.
And there's an interesting. This is where I hark back to Robbie actually being able to act, perhaps done by Tanner Buchanan, because there is a touching exchange between Miguel and Robbie where they talk about how Robbie was a bully and he threw him off the balcony in season 2.
Yeah.
And Miguel could obviously have done the same. So it's almost as though history is repeating itself and the tables have turned. And then Miguel stops himself and Robbie realizes what he did to Miguel, and Miguel realizes what he could end up doing to Robbie and how easy it is to be in that situation. We could inadvertently throw someone off the side of the balcony. I mean, I can't even believe those words came out of my mouth, but apparently that's a thing. And they both have this really intimate moment and realization that they were in some bad situations and made some poor judgments, but they don't want that anymore.
Mm.
And then that's put to one side. And then Johnny comes in and goes, "Guys, what the hell are you doing? Like, oh my God, you nearly killed each other. And by the way, Miguel, your mum's pregnant." And there was a really nice moment there where actually it united the three of them together as a kind of odd little family. And I thought it was really touching. I thought it was quite heartfelt, and I actually thought it was a really good bit of writing. And I thought it was acted really well because you kind of end 3 seasons worth of conflict and mistrust. They're not saying they're best buds now, but I really thought that was a really pivotal moment for all those characters, and I thought it was handled simply but really well.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, it's definitely probably one of the better moments of the season.
Yeah,
for sure. Now, where are we? So yep. So they've reconciled.
they have.
Johnny's accidentally revealed that Karma's pregnant, and everyone's happy. Elsewhere, Daniel receives a newspaper clipping implying that Stingray lied about Kreese assaulting him. which leads to him and Chosen paying him a visit. And of course, Stingray now lives a luxurious life, having been bribed by Silver to lie at Kreese's trial. When Daniel returns to apologize to Stingray for berating him earlier, he's ambushed by Terry Silver, in which we get a bit of a mid-season Empire Strikes Back moment, and he gets the shit kicked out of him, basically. I mean, there's a moment where I think Terry Silver possibly dislocates or breaks his arm.
Yes, yeah.
It's quite gnarly. And then as this episode ends, or comes to an end, in Ohio, Amanda learns from her cousin that Daniel's former friend, Jessica Andrews, about how Silver tormented him and her in 1985. Now, finally learning how twisted Silver actually is, Amanda and the children go back home after an episode, apparently, to care for an injured Daniel. And there's quite a nice moment. I think it's what's his daughter's name, Alex? I've just gone brain dead there. Sam.
Oh yeah, Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's her that's sort of doing the overdub of the voice, and you see all these people sort of coming in, like through these cutscenes to help. You know, almost like that beacon of light, even though this bad stuff just happened.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was quite a nice moment, but it actually ends with Tori, who gave Daniel the tip, visits an imprisoned Kreese, and they scheme to take Terry Silver down. Well, that
nice
doesn't last long.
Mid-season twist. No, it doesn't. No.
Yeah. On to episode 6. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do this. Episode title, Any Justice? It's spelled... God damn it, Dan. Get it together.
Ouroboros, I think it is.
I'm not even going to try, but
it's on the red wine again, guys.
Yeah, I think you've done it more justice than I possibly could have. Now, Silver recruits a group of senseis from South Korea, led by Kim Daeun, the granddaughter of Kim Sun-young. I don't know why I've highlighted this as a least favourite moment. I actually don't know. I'm not too sure. Maybe I'll give it some thought as I go through the episode. It might just ring some bells. They take over a local dojo, Topanga Karate, and rebrand it as Cobra Kai, merging it into his new string of dojos. Kim forces the students into a brutal combat tournament to push them to the top, during which former Eagle Fang student Devon Lee fails to defeat Tori. She legs it, but comes back to Cobra Kai the following day. And, apparently she's Cobra Kai now.
Just like that.
Just like that. Even though she knows they're bad eggs after being an Eagle Fang. Strange. But I mean, I suppose Cobra Kai, even through like seasons 1 to 4, there's always that pushing and pulling of a character. So 1 minute they could be good, then they're bad. They push them back to good again. Or you get a story arc like Hawk, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Definitely.
In prison, Kreese is harassed by a group of inmates but refuses to react, hoping to get parole hearing so he can be released. Now, upon discovering that his parole hearing has been denied, Kreese gets into a fight with the group of inmates, earning their respect. Now, this was one of my favourite moments this episode, because you don't see old Kreese kicking the shit out of these people. I think the tone or the colour of the screen changes, and you see the younger Kreese, and he's kicking the shit out of all of them. He's banging them into the metal beds and smashing sinks. It's quality.
And that's what I kind of like in, I think it was this episode, or perhaps in the coming one, where Kreese is talking. I think it's this one where Kreese is talking to the counselor, and he's talking to different. I think it's the next one actually. He's talking to faces of his past, and they're all talking to him, and they change as the scene progresses. And it's a very clever way of him answering the question to the medical practitioner, but him also answering back in character to the face of his past and him about how he's made his choices and the impact it's had on these people, and the realization that he only really cared probably about Johnny, and that he's found Johnny and his legacy and the rest of it. And the flashbacks, I think, have really handled really well. And that fight scene, yeah, that's made my top 5. It's well choreographed, and bless him, old creases is a little bit slower these days. So I think it was physically a great way to kind of relieve the burden of a fight scene of that actor. And it looked great in the final cut. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really, really good.
Meanwhile, we've got Daniel, who decides he's going to give up karate. He returns to work at the car dealership, but not without upsetting his family, Chosen and Johnny. But of course, Johnny and Chosen go to confront Silver at the Topanga dojo, but they fight one of his new senseis instead. And it ends with Amanda takes Daniel to the Miyagi-Do dojo, where he becomes inspired to reopen Miyagi-Do and take down Silver once and for all after seeing Mr. Miyagi's old room. And again, that all happens sort of quite quickly. 1 minute he's quit, he's like, I don't want nothing to do with it. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm in this room, I'm really inspired. No, do you know what? I'm going to take him down.
There's lots of U-turns for that whole family, I think, in this series. And I don't know whether it was rushed. I don't know whether it really needed to take place, but you're right. It felt a little bit odd, and it was turned around all within 2 episodes.
I think, I mean, not just Cobra Kai, but in some series, you can see things like this. They're a victim to either it's too quick and the U-turn is too quick, or sometimes it can just be dragged out for so long that you get bored. There's never really any middle ground. And I guess that's because you've only got so much story to tell. And obviously the Cobra Kai episodes are, 30 minutes long?
Yeah.
I suppose you can't quite drag that out when you've got other stories to tell in and around it. But yeah, maybe I've a bit hypocritical there from myself, but I've answered my own question. Anyway, on to episode 7 called Bad Eggs. So this actually starts with a flashback to 1980 where Silver and Kreese train under Kim Sung-young. Daniel and Johnny go to visit Kreese to get tips on how to beat Terry Silver, leaving Chosen as the student sensei. Now, again, this is actually one of my favourite moments. So Chosen issues a challenge in which the students must protect an egg they assigned from being destroyed. But they all fail when Chosen destroys the eggs, and some of the ways he destroys eggs are so creative. He throws knives. I think at one point, Sam's brother, can't remember his name, but he quits almost immediately, pulls out the egg, and he just crushes it, doesn't he? But on their second attempt, which was, again, this is where they actually learn to work together to protect the eggs. It's Anthony. Do you know what? He's in my next part of the notes. It's Anthony, Sam's brother. So they all huddle around, and of course, Chosen's like, well, I can't destroy the eggs. You've learned the lesson. There you go. You've just got to work together, which isn't what Cobra Kai do. They are all individuals at the end of the day. It's a bit like football, Alex. Do you ever find that? You get the odd team here and there where they don't really play as a team, but they're a team of individuals.
Yes, indeed.
And unfortunately, there is no success in being an individual.
There's no I in team, but there's a U in see you next Tuesday, Dan.
Oh, I like it.
Is the term that comes to mind. But yes, and I think, and this is where we'll see in a couple of episodes' time, that teaching come to light at the final showdown. This guy, though, should not be in charge of looking after kids.
No,
he's got sharp, pointy bits. He's thrashing sticks around. He's he wouldn't get away with it in this country. Let's put it that way. Child service would be all over him.
Yeah, quite. Anyway, at Cobra Kai, Silver and Kim split the students into two groups, the boys and the girls, and have two students from each group work together to combat their respective sensei. Now, of course, Tori and Devon are paired up, but they fail to defeat Kim, whilst Kyler and Kenny are paired up, and they fail to work together when Kyler deems himself superior to Kenny. Of course, we know Kenny's the little scrawn who's now kicking ass. After a pep talk from Silver, Kenny bests Kyler and manages to beat Sensei Adele by himself. Now, if I recall, Kyler's on the floor.
Yes.
And Kenny sort of runs and vaults off of him and takes Adele out that way. It's quite a creative way to do it.
It is. It's quite a good scene. I struggle with the character of Kenny because the fact he was bullied so much in season 3 at the beginning. I don't know whether he would fail to recognize or even accept that he has become what he feared. Like it's almost like an Anakin Skywalker moment, you know. He knows he's evil and he's about to cut up the kids with his lightsaber and murder them. But really, like, there's a line. I don't, you know, it's a bad kind of comparison because obviously he's drunk with the dark arts of the Force and the power that comes. Whereas, you know, Kenny arguably has the power, and now the new teachings of Cobra Kai can stand for himself. But I don't know. I just don't see this little guy really going, well, I'm too big for boots now, and I'm just going to kick the shit out of everyone else because I can. I don't quite get the character, but all the same, yeah, I agree. It was quite a fulfilling moment because he realised actually he doesn't need Kyler. And we know that Kyler's a bit of a dick anyway, and he was since episode 1 of season 1, wasn't he?
Yeah, where he's getting smashed by a tray.
That still is one of the best scenes, right? We talk about this in the seasons 1, 2 to 3 favourites, and just that whole fight scene is just brilliant. You know, Miguel just taking him out in the canteen is just a feel good moment for sure.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it just showed that Kenny's learning and he's now the new lead of Cobra Kai, but I just don't buy into the whole he's evil now. Just don't get it.
And to wrap up this episode, Daniel and Johnny trick Kreese into revealing that Silver wants to enter Cobra Kai into an international karate tournament called the Sekai Takai, hoping to expand Cobra Kai worldwide. I mean, what's in it for Silver other than money?
I think it's legacy. Because he's got money. I think he want. I mean, they said it to some extent, I think, in this episode where it's not enough to just have the Valley. Actually, you know, Kreese was probably going to do to some extent probably that anyway. Eventually, he wants to really make a mark and be the best sensei ever. But world domination again just feels like a tired trope. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. What's his motivation? He's got everything. Would you really go to all that effort to try and have Cobra Kai across the world international? It just seems like a bit of a headache to me. How would you manage it? I don't know.
Yeah. Just, again, a bit of an odd one, but anyway, episode 8, Takai. As a Sekai Takai selection committee meet with Silver, Daniel, Johnny, Amanda, and Chosen intrude and convince the judges to let Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang try out for the tournament. They do so, and both dojos show them their techniques. Impressed by both dojos, the judges decide to hold a tournament-style presentation to decide which will participate in the Sekai Takai, with each dojo deciding one male and female fighter. Now, Cobra Kai chooses Kenny and Tori, whilst Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang chooses Hawk and Sam. Apparently giving up on his scheme, Kreese tells Tori to continue in Cobra Kai, which upsets her, and she severs her ties with him. Sam finds the discarded octopus necklace Miguel bought for her in the ground of Miyagi-Do. Because, of course, way back when he tries to gift her this necklace, he drops it in a tearful moment.
But this is the thing I struggle with. She would never have known it was his.
Yeah.
To her, it's just a random piece of jewelry that's been discarded. How does she know that it's his and that he was going to give it to her?
Yeah, bit of a loose
She never
end
sees
there.
it. She never sees it. That's the whole point. He never gives it to her, and he throws it down because he's like, "Well, there's no point in me giving it to her." And apparently, you don't keep receipts these days, so you can't get your money back. So he just throws it down the floor. How would she possibly know that item was for her, and it was given by him?
Yeah,
Don't know. I'm poking a hole where it doesn't really need to be poked because just go with it. But it just seems a bit weak.
There's bigger holes in the plot than the necklace, but
yeah, bigger holes is like Swiss cheese, and there is a piece of jewelry which reconciles two characters. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, this is one of my least favorite moments. Kenny defeats Hawk using the silver bullet, which Silver taught him to knock the wind out of him.
Yeah.
Now I thought, like, when he's teaching how to do the silver bullet, I thought, well, that's a bit of a deadly move, and I thought, fucking hell. They're doing it
to stop his heart.
They're gonna kill someone off this season. I don't want it to be Hawk, but I mean, Jesus, it just gives everyone a little bit more to fight for. But now he's a bit winded, and then he's all right. I thought, oh,
okay. Yeah, he should have really sat it out for longer, as in he probably should have been going to A&E. Don't you think? Just like
because he starts to go blue, and I thought, they might literally kill someone off.
Yeah, it might actually happen.
But he survives. Realizing Silver bribed another referee, who, of course, is refereeing these two matches, Tori buggers off, and Sam's fight is now with Devon in her place. In spite of the rigged match, Sam still defeats Devon, and the committee decides to let both dojos join the Sekai Takai. So they all go and celebrate at Johnny's apartment, where Miguel kisses another girl, leaving Sam distraught.
She's got no right, by the way, Dan.
Yeah.
She's got no right because she called it off. So Miguel can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, no, exactly. I've put that down as one of my least favourite moments. And again, it doesn't bring anything.
No.
But hey, I don't know. It's a bit of a odd moment. I don't quite understand why he's kissing another girl for Sam to leave distraught, because it doesn't bring anything to that relationship. When, like you say, Sam's binned him off. He can do what he wants.
Yeah.
But this ends with a remorseful Tori. She arrives and admits to Sam that Silver rigged their match at the All Valley Tournament. So I thought, oh, that's a good cliffhanger. I might watch the next episode.
They got you.
Episode 9, they got me. Hook, line, sinker. Episode 9, Survivors. Well, we open with Sam lashing out at Tori following her confession due to her not doing anything about the tournament being rigged.
What would you? And this is what I struggle with in this particular episode, because it's quite a big thing for her to seek out her long-term enemy, to admit that she's wrong, and then for Sam to go, well, I'm not going to appreciate any of what you've just done, and why did you do more? I know she probably felt hard done by, because technically she would have won the tournament, and she feels as though she's been robbed. But looking more broader, your enemy has turned up, kind of giving you the upper hand, and you just ignore that. I know there's a lot of bad blood. I just don't think you'd do that. There's bigger stakes at play than ego. I mean, it's not supposed to be based upon real life. It's entertainment at the end of the day, but yeah, just not sure that would be true to the characters.
No,
especially not Sam, who tends to be quite holier than thou, quite following the straight line most of the time. I don't know whether she'd actually truly do that.
Yeah. But later on, Silver and Kim punish Tori for deserting the fight the previous day, and they force her to punch through a stone block, which leaves her heavily injured, and her hand is left covered in blood. Quite a unsettling moment. You sort of realise just how bad Cobra Kai are, and especially Kim. I mean, I don't quite know what Kim is going to, or what she quite brings to season 5, but then I do wonder, given her legacy or her father's legacy, is there going to be something for her in season 6? Because essentially, I mean, we'll probably talk about this more in a minute. You've got rid of Terry Silver, who was the big bad. Who's your next big bad if they want to carry this on?
Mm-hmm.
But hey, sorry, Alex, I cut you up there.
No, I was going to say, it was a really good scene, and I was flinching because you could see what was going to happen, but she was kind of put into a very difficult situation where she couldn't not do it because otherwise the game would be up. So, yeah, it's a bit of a savage scene. Quite enjoyed it in a sick kind of way, but I think it made the character really realise that actually she was truly in danger and there's no way out. So she had to do what eventually would know to her to do in the next episode.
Yeah.
A good scene, I think.
Robbie attempts to persuade the Cobra Kai students to quit, but they all ignore him. Now, I thought this was actually another a good scene in episode 9. Miguel, Sam, and Hawk, and Dimitri and Bert, that's quite a lot of them, 5 of them, they approach Stingray. And he uses a Dungeons and Dragons scenario to recount the true story of the assault, but admitting he was too scared of Silver to confess the truth. I just thought it was a really creative way because he's like, I'm too scared to really tell you the story myself. But if I recall it in a way of Dungeons and Dragons that you'll understand, I'm fessing up to it, but not quite.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's quite a touching moment for that character that actually you buy into the fact that he is truly scared but wants to do the right thing by talking around the topic, and it's a well thought out scene.
Sam gives Tori another chance. So Sam goes over to Tori's house, discovers her mother's illness, and they hatch a plan with other students to acquire evidence of Silver's crimes to show to the other Cobra Kai students. After Silver discovers Carmen's pregnancy in a hospital encounter, in a lift of all places, she and Johnny inform Daniel, Amanda, and Chosen. But what do? They go out clubbing to celebrate.
As you do.
As you do. Chosen admits to Johnny and Daniel that he's in love with Kamiko, and he leaves her a voicemail message. Now, again, this is one of those scenes where you sort of almost think they're going to wind up to someone possibly carking it. But we'll talk about that more in episode 10. The 3 men continue their night out, only for their limo to be hijacked while on their way to another bar. We've Chosen believing that Silver did it. Now, I watched this episode on a lunch break, and of course, when you've only got an hour, that doesn't leave you a lot of time to watch. I was like, oh, I don't want to watch the next episode, so I watched it on the last episode on my lunch break the following day. The joys of being a hybrid worker, Alex. Do you hybrid work?
Oh, yes. Love it.
It's amazing, isn't it? I quite like the being in the office one week and then working from home the next. It's best of both worlds.
Yeah, I agree.
But I digress. Anyway, episode 10, the finale, which is Head of the Snake.
Oh, this one, Dan, I just want to say, I think I commented to you, and maybe perhaps in a previous episode, this crept up on me real quick. And what I mean by that is I usually have a sneak peek at the episodes, not the descriptions, because that's almost like going to the end of the book and reading the last line. I don't do that. But I do usually look at on Netflix, you go through the episodes to see how many there are, and usually I do it. But I didn't. I'm not sure if subconscious or purposeful. I don't recall making that judgment. But either way, I didn't look at the episode count. I expected it to be more. So when the events of what happened or will transpire, I was really quite taken aback. And actually, if I reflect, that all happened really quite quickly. It's not to say that the pacing was off, but they wrap this up very, very neatly, very, very quickly in this episode. And I wasn't expecting it. So when suddenly the big bads are beaten and everything is rosy, I was like, oh, that is actually it. It's not as though this is an episode 9 cliffhanger and actually something goes wrong and actually there's a real episode 10. No, this is it. And I wasn't prepared for it. And again, I don't know whether it's because usually I am or whether it's because it was all very conveniently tied up in a lovely bow at the end. But yeah, caught me off guard this episode, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, especially the opening where we see Kreese in prison trying to show mercy towards a cellmate, but he's presumably killed in the fight. We see the shiv come out. We see what we assume is blood. And I thought, fuck. They've actually done it. They've killed someone.
Yeah.
They've actually killed a big character off. But obviously we'll talk about that at the end of this episode. Elsewhere, we see a vengeful Barnes who was the hijacker of the limo, and he decides to launch an attack on Silver and his senseis at his mansion. And Johnny and Chosen join him, but Daniel refuses, and off he walks around the windy road. Barnes is quickly subdued, while Silver and Chosen engage in a fight to the death. But not really, because killing a character in Cobra Kai is actually unheard of.
Doesn't happen.
Which ends with the latter being what we think's mortally wounded. He gets slashed by a goddamn samurai sword. He should be dead.
Yeah, you don't walk away from, literally. And this is one of my, I thought, I still do to some extent, it was a really well choreographed fight scene. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, where they kind of showed their hand just how powerful Chosen was, because had Chosen been with the other characters, he would have cleaned up the room with the other senseis, but they kind of took him aside because he was the heaviest hitter. It's like in the MCU, you don't use Hulk. Hulk just conveniently forgets or doesn't want to Hulk out and ends up leaving puny Bruce Banner, because otherwise it'd just be a very short film in Infinity War, because he's just so powerful that he'd end up stopping Thanos. Well, in this, it's almost kind of similar to that, because we know that he is Chosen so powerful, you've got to take him out some other way. And seemingly Silver is a fine match. And yeah, we think he sliced and diced, left for dead in the pool. Actually, for all intents and purposes, he probably should have been using the samurai sword.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's a great scene. Elsewhere, you got Johnny, who actually almost gives up on defeating the sensei. So he's got like 4 or 5 of them on him, if I remember.
Yeah.
But he sees the ultrasound of his unborn baby, which sort of gives him that second wind, and he's later assisted by Barnes as it looks like he's about to be brown bread.
Yeah.
And of course, that is quite a funny moment. You know, he sort of turns to Barnes and goes, "Yeah, I did most of the work." At the same time, Tori helps the Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang students infiltrate the Cobra Kai dojo, and they hack the mainframe to procure footage of Silver beating up Stingray. Of course, that footage has gone walkies. It's been deleted by Silver. They decide to upload the video of Tori's confrontation with Silver instead, in which he admits to rigging her match with Sam. Now, Mitch betrays Miyagi-Do because the Cobra Kai students don't call him penis breath.
Which is a fair point, I think, to be honest.
Warning them about the Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang's students' plans. A fight between the 3 dojos ensues, and they're soon joined by Kim, who decides she's going to go kick the shit out of some kids, because that's what grown adults do, apparently.
That's a thing, yeah.
That is a thing, especially in Cobra Kai. Devon switches sides and helps Tori fight Kim, while Hawk and Dimitri acquire the footage and join the fight. Anthony grabs the Cobra Kai tablet, and as the Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang students protect him, like they would protect the egg, he uploads and plays the footage of on the dojo screens via YouTube, breaking their faith in Silver. Now, thankfully, Daniel, Amanda, Carmen, and remorseful Stingray arrive at the dojo at the same time as Silver, who desperately tries to sway back his Cobra Kai students, but they don't respond to him as his maniacal nature is exposed. Which is, I mean, he looks a mess, and it sort of suits that maniac look. You know, his hair's finally a little bit disheveled. He's sweaty. He looks like a madman hell-bent on revenge.
You can see he's lost control in every single fashion. And I think at that stage, he really believes it actually doesn't really matter. Of course it does, because it was all built upon a lie, and the kids are fickle. And it's not enough to save his failing now dojo.
No, he's seen the red mist, and that has descended. Daniel challenges Silver to a fight using his training against him, and finishes him off using a crane kick, which is a nice throwback to the first Karate Kid, which leads to Silver falling to the ground in defeat, or more so, into a wall of glass. Silver students desert him, and they all throw their Cobra Kai shirts on him, and he's arrested when Stingray confesses to his false testimony. Now, in the UK, Alex, if you confess to lying, would that mean Stingray's going to get arrested and go down for his lies?
Well, yeah. I mean, technically speaking, it'd be obstruction of justice. So he'd get a minor offence, I guess, but he would still have a case brought against him. It'd be Crown Prosecution Service or something. As in America, that's the state effectively going after you as opposed to the victim of the crime, which is usually the way in this country. So yeah, he'd be at fault. I think it's fair to say I don't know too much about US justice system. I know it's tricky, and I'm using my words very carefully. Some might say it's quite unjustified, but anyway, he might plead a minor offence to get out of doing longer jail time or something. So there should still, technically speaking, be repercussions, but it depends on what the prosecution offer. If they say, well, if you go full in on this guy because we know that he's a terrible person, we'll let you off. They do deals. Now, these deals aren't always offered to people or in the fairest possible way. And again, I'm not here to cast judgment on legal systems in other countries. But yeah, technically speaking, that's probably not the end of the poor guy's experiences. He's still got to face the music to some extent.
Yeah, definitely. This is where we think everything is rosy. So, of course, Tori and Robbie have reconciled, and they have a good old smooch. And as do Sam and Miguel, and they confess their love for each other. Chosen arrives after being heavily wounded and is hospitalised. So, of course, he did survive the samurai sword. And
of course he did.
Apparently falling face first into a pool of water. But here we are.
Who needs to breathe and who needs blood, Dan?
Chosen.
Not chosen.
Not chosen.
No.
Whilst Barnes steals a painting from Silver to compensate for his furniture store, off he goes with a quite an expensive painting. And I hope to see, if there is a season 6, a new furniture store. Daniel, Johnny, and their students are all celebrating their victory over Cobra Kai, but to which a police officer goes, did you not hear about John Kreese? Unknown to everyone, Kreese is revealed to have faked his death by using melted jello as fake blood, and he escapes prison dressed as one of the doctors. It's such a good moment, and you know what? If there isn't a season 6, it sort of rounds up quite nicely.
Yeah, I mean, will we see Kreese again? What part is he going to play? Because he almost seemed like he wanted things to be better on the outside world. I don't know. Interesting kind of resolution for the character, and where's he going to go now? It might just be that's the end of Crease and he goes off into the sunset. And part of me thinks that's okay.
Mm.
I don't know if he's got anything else to give because he's not going to reconcile with Johnny. He's ruined Johnny's life and given him daddy issues. Is there anything else that he really needs to do now apart from just let people think that he's dead and they can go on do their business?
Yeah.
Mm.
So if there is a season 6, it does make me wonder, who's your next big bad? Is it going to be Kim? Because essentially she's been humiliated by Silver's downfall. And of course, she's got her father's legacy behind her. I don't know. We'll have to see. But we'll talk about what's next shortly. But let's go into favourite character development for season 5, Alex. Who have you got one in particular that stands out?
Probably Tori.
Oh, you've gone left field, which is where I
Yeah.
usually would go. And I think Tori was my season 4.
Yeah. And the only reason being is you kind of see her question at the end of season 4. And then here you see her, and obviously with then finding out that she's working with Crease, she's actively she's not taking her time to come around to the fact that actually there's some bad goings on. She's already decided that she's actually working from the inside.
Mm.
And while she doesn't really apologize for her behavior in the prior seasons, at least she tries to make good at the end.
Yeah.
And I think they do it in a semi-believable way. Not that I want anyone to go through that experience, because that in itself is be quite a horrific thing to be believable. But she doesn't really apologize, but she says, you know what, I acknowledge that shit went down and I want to try and make it better because it's unfair and it isn't right. And I think that's probably doing right to the character. If they handled it in any other way, so she stuck her heels and said, no, screw it, I'm a true champion, I'm going to stick by Silver, regardless of the fact that I know about this, or the other way, and they made her out to be the knight in shining armor, and she ends up defecting to Miyagi-Do at the beginning, and Eagle Fang, I think that'd be disingenuous.
Yeah.
And poor writing. So I think they managed her really well because she's a complex character. She's got challenges at home. She needed that place. She had that father figure in Crease. He let her down because he told her to basically to defect. And she didn't believe it. And then she does the right thing, but by her own choice and her own admission. And then wanted to teach others the same way as Robbie does, I guess, but less kind of in a cheesy fashion, to say, look, this is wrong. This isn't the way you do things. This isn't the way that you should be fighting. And it was done in I think, a true way to the character. So for me, Tori actually came out trumps in this. I think a lot of the characters actually fell quite foul of the writing this season. There was a lot of things that were started and then rushed, or they didn't really get completed. A lot of odd choices that from episode to episode they flip-flopped. I didn't really get it, but Tori actually was the one constant who worked on improving the situation in her own way. And I think for me that's what I enjoyed the most. She was the most consistent of this series, I think. That's what in the backdrop of everyone else being so inconsistent or having any proper meaningful storyline. For me, she made it. But what about you, Dan? If it wasn't Tori, which you'd usually, by your admission, say would have made your top, who is it for you?
I wouldn't usually go for the obvious, but I've gone for the obvious. I've actually chosen Johnny Lawrence.
Yeah, okay.
You know, he has this realization that he's going to be a father again. He has to grow up. He matures. And you know what? He actually cleans his apartment, like I said, back at sort of toward the start of the breakdown of each episode. I mean, I know this is a bit contradictory, but hear me out. He gets Robbie and Miguel to heal their rift. Now, okay, it's the old school Johnny way, but whatever. It works. And of course, that sort of brings them I mean, whether they're a happy family now, time will tell. But he's had an interesting arc. When you think back to season one, he was a lonely man. He was spending his nights and days
Yeah.
drinking beer, getting into bar fights.
He was bitter.
Yeah. By season five, he's actually got a purpose. Teaching young kids. He's got a girlfriend in Carmen. Yeah, he's a mentee, or he's got a mentee he viewed as a son, and a budding new relationship with his son Robbie. His transformation has been one of the most exciting to see. And because even though he's gotten his life together, he still sort of remains himself.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And there's something still authentic with the character. And I think I can see where you're going from, Dan, because up until this point, he's made some really poor or ill thought out decisions. He's always made the easy decision, or the one perhaps that he thinks makes the best outcome for him. But I think this kind of paints him in a selfless light. And it's about time, really, that he had that realization that he's an adult and needs to buck up his ideas. But I quite like that. As you say, there's still elements shining through in terms of the escape room, or him when he does the gig economy thing, where he ends up driving people around and making them late for their taxis or their food deliveries. I think it was funny, but at least it goes to show that he's still a goofy character. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from. He does make that right choice this time for the right reasons.
Yeah, I mean, say usually I wouldn't go for the obvious. In the past, I chose Hawk or Tory or sort of one of the sort of more left field characters. But yeah, it just seemed a bit of an obvious one for season 5, and it had to be Johnny for me.
Good choice.
But what's next? Now, Ralph Macchio has already hinted that footage exists for future seasons. He said, There's stuff that they wrote in season 3 that didn't happen until season 4 because there wasn't any room in season 3.
What?
That's what he told comicbook.com. There's stuff that was in season 5 that we know we shot that is being held for the future if we get that green light. So there's more to come, we hope. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Josh Hurwitz quasi-contradicted them in a recent interview with Games Radar. He said, "We've filmed nothing that's in season 6," he said. "There may have been some things filmed in season 5 that got cut out of the season. Some of those character or story moments may appear in a future season, but there were no actual scenes filmed for season 6.
Keep you guessing.
Regardless, Hayden Schlossberg chimed in, "There's no official response to whether or not there will be a season 6, except we have lots of ideas. There's time and places to make official things. We're not at that place right now." Now, regardless, Cobra Kai's creators do have an end game in sight. It's just a matter of time of when the series will reach that end. Hurwitz told Total Film. I've done that all in one breath. That's really poor grammar. Hurwitz told Total Film, "We do have a place where it's all going, but that doesn't mean the world has to stop there. We have lots of ideas of continuing the universe and keeping the Karate Kid vibes going through other stories and other shows and different formats for that."
So talk about spin-offs potentially.
Now, this was a little bit more interesting. So this is something I don't know how I managed to get dragged down this rabbit hole, but I found it. Now, one of those ideas might be the return of the only character left to return. So, of course, we've now had Mike Barnes. Could we see the return of Hilary Swank's Julie Pierce from the next Karate Kid? Since the early days of Cobra Kai, fans have clamoured for the 1994 film to get its call back. In a recent appearance on Live with Kelly and Ryan, I don't know what that show that is, but it's obviously an American thing, Hilary Swank said that she hasn't even received a call from the Cobra Kai team. And, quote, "I'm not in Cobra Kai. No one's asked me to be in Cobra Kai. A lot of people ask if I'm going to be in it. It's like the number one question I get. No one's called me
Yet.
yet, but it wouldn't surprise me. Did you find anything out on what's next, Alex? Or
No, I didn't.
no?
As you say, they're keeping their lips sealed. But with Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang both making it through to the tournament, one assumes that the Tekai is going to be perhaps abroad. And if you look at Chosen's love affair with Kumiko, I would hazard a guess and say that it's going to be back in Japan. And the tournament's going to take place there, and there's going to be some hijinks in a different country, which, Americans let loose is funny at the best of times in a foreign country that they can't speak English. And we can't talk because, of course, us Brits expect everyone to speak English because colonialism and idiocy. So I'm not poking fun at Americans specifically. Us Brits are stupid as well. But I think that could probably be where it's going to end up, and there it might be a case of where you see, was it Lee? Was her name? The sensei, the granddaughter, Kim, and it might be that Kim ends up, taking the form of the baddie on that stage in a big old tournament that lasts for maybe half the season. I don't know. That's where my money's at. It's going to be the Sekai Tekai, because you can't get much bigger than that. It's a world stage, it's not just a valley now. It's much bigger than them. So why keep it in the valley? I think that story's been done. The high school thing's been done. I think they're going to take it abroad and have one final blowout back where it all begun in Japan. And at least that's where I think it should go.
Yeah.
End on a high on season 6. Finish it off. They go back to Mr. Miyagi's spiritual home and be done with it.
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction, and that's something I would definitely love to see. We didn't get much on the socials, but we did get a couple, and you've got a voice message that challenges you, Alex.
Ooh.
But first, on Facebook, Ashley said, "It's terribly acted, poor martial arts skills, and that's the point. It's terrible, but brilliant." And that genuinely does sum it up quite beautifully, I think. I mean, I think you're probably being a bit harsh though. The terribly acted, maybe your favourite, Alex. What's his name? Buchanan.
Yeah, I mean,
but he has gotten better over the seasons for sure.
He has. I mean, all right, you got to. This is not going to win any awards, but take it for what it is. It was a series that was originally launched on YouTube, for crying out loud, and has done really well to actually get signed and get a lot of money through to Netflix. So it does have its flaws, but take it for what it is. It's
I mean, it's obviously got its following because of nostalgia. People love those Karate Kid films, whereas I didn't really like the Karate Kid films, but I really do appreciate Cobra Kai for what it is, and I love it. Poor martial arts, there are a couple of times where I've sort of, it's probably maybe the older guys, but they're old. You can't expect them to look like they're going full force of a kick, say, compared to the kids, where you can see them actually going hammer and.
You can see they've been trained as well. I mean, I think they've done. I don't know martial arts clearly by what I'm saying, and if anyone knows me, but they have had some training. Yes, you may not fully believe the characters because, as you say, Dan, perhaps some of the characters are slower than what you'd expect. But as you say, some of the kids are actually going for it, and I don't know anything about form and technique, but they look the part. Sometimes, look at Hawk. He clearly knows what he's doing. He's very athletic. So broadly, no, but specifically sometimes I guess I agree with. Was it Ashley, do you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I do agree with Ashley, but I think as a broad brush, I wouldn't wholly agree with it, no.
And here's the voice message. This comes from my other half, Claire. And Alex, you have been set a challenge.
Oh,
So this one's for Alex. Dan keeps telling me to watch Cobra Kai. Like, he keeps bugging me about it. Every day he asks me when I'm going to watch it. So, in 5 words, I need you to convince me why I should catch up on it.
5 words, Alex.
5 words, no pressure. Okay. It's a bloody good time, or it's a feel-good series.
Yeah, I'd agree with both of those.
I can't do better than that because I think if I was anything more specific, it just wouldn't do it justice. I think take it for what it is. It's easy viewing. There are just enough hooks to keep you wanting to go back to see more. And I think the pacing, although at times a little bit odd, it really does kind of steam train its way towards every single finale and gets you to want to watch more. So yeah, it's a feel-good series, I think, for me. That'll be my answer to Claire, Dan.
I mean,
Just
hopefully
take it for what it is. It's enjoyable to watch. If you don't take it seriously, I think you'll have a great time.
I hope that's convinced her because I'm having a hard time, Alex. She might put her trust in you, and I can rewatch it all over again, and I can have a good time watching it with her.
Let's hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yep. That wraps up for Cobra Kai. We will be back in a couple of weeks for our Halloween special.
Ooh.
We are volume 3. God, check out volumes 1 and 2.
They're really good. Really, really good.
I think volume 1 was about our own personal experiences with, the supernatural, mainly me, because I'm into all that weird stuff. Volume 2, I took you on a journey around the UK.
You did.
But in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be taking you on a journey around Portsmouth and the surrounding areas. So even if you don't live here, there's a lot of history. There's a lot of good locations to discuss and some questionable characters. And then I guess, Alex, in November, we'll be discussing She-Hulk. I think that has to be done. And we'll probably be back with an on the go and a review of Wakanda Forever.
Got to be done.
But we'll fill in the gap somehow, somewhere in between. And of course, we'll be looking forward to Christmas after that. But if you want to get involved, we've got our socials. So you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I still have no clue what I'm doing on TikTok. That is at On The Topic Pod. And we are on Gmail, which is on the topic podcast at gmail.com. And Alex, we've got WordPress and YouTube now, which is slowly rolling out.
We do, yeah. So we're on ontopicpodcast.wordpress.com. It's our website. Go on there, have a look. We've got ugly mugs, our bios. We've got content from our affiliate partner, Morbid and Mundane. If you want to see some fantastic t-shirts, beanies, and the rest of it, go and have a look at Joey's fantastic work. If you don't have a podcast provider of choice, you can stream all of our episodes from the website. So go have a look. And also there's a newsletter, I should say, so you can sign up and be notified when there is a new episode out. And as Dan said, we are now doing Throwback Thursdays again. And we're starting from OTT number 1. And every week we're doing 2 releases, which should take us up to about February or March when we're up to speed and doing our news releases onto YouTube. But yeah, we are going back into the archives and doing a release of some of our old stuff on YouTube. So again, if you want to listen on that medium, there's no excuse, guys. You can have a listen and also get in touch with us if there's an episode that you want us to cover off, or if you want to provide some thoughts on an episode or some challenging perspectives, let us know, get in touch, and we'll feature you in the next episode.
Yeah, and if you follow any of those socials, there is a link to Anchor. So if you want to be like Claire, you can leave us a voice message and we can plug you into the show.
Oh, yes.
But of course, we'll see you in a couple of weeks for our Halloween special. I am off to fake my death with jelly and make that into some fake blood. I don't really know. Do you know what? Maybe I won't. I might get arrested. I've been Dan.
And I'm going to take Katana to the back and seemingly not drown in a pool. I'm Alex.
And we'll see you in Halloween.
Ooh.